So our final two speakers tonight, this is going to be a collaborative presentation with Scott and Thaddeus. Scott is a PhD student here at ISU who really dislikes writing bios and blurbs about himself because his interests are almost constantly changing. And every time he reads something about himself where he describes things he likes or is interested in, he finds those interests to be trite and boring. So instead, he has taken to writing blurbs and bios that indicate his reluctance to share his interests with a collection of random people. These he never seems to dislike when he encounters them later, the people, that is. Thaddeus is also a PhD student here at ISU and only feels comfortable writing about himself if he is allowed to either A, flagrantly lie, or B, tip a toolbox of postmodern trickery over atop the text to obfuscate. Or, to be all grad schooly about it, complicate anything supposedly true about himself. In this presentation, a story of collaborative writing, how technology and unchecked arrogance led to an unpublishable debacle, Thaddeus and Scott, wow, that's awfully familiar, ruminate on how technological and partnership choices impact the successes and failures of their work. Though in their own words, Scott and Thaddeus argue blah, 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 which should be obvious. They're literally like black boxes.
It's redacted.
Yes. Okay, so please welcome Thaddeus and Scott.
Well, as it happens, we renamed our presentation.
Of course we did.
Yeah.
I feel like we should preemptively apologize for what is about to happen.
Well, it's great because there's also like our entire thing is about justifying its own existence or non-existence, so it is like also sort of an artist's statement.
Sure.
And
Except neither of us
just
are.
talked about apologizing, so maybe
Yeah.
you should send us all a text.
I will.
I don't like to text message
Later.
because I'm weirdly Luddite about that. Anyway, so the title of the thing in the background, at least, I don't know if this is the title of the presentation.
Whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. But is that, a presentation about an article about itself. So a little bit of background. Here is the first thing that we made that none of this that we're talking about now or got published actually is. This is our first draft grassroots article that we made for Joyce's class. And it's very colorful and surrounded by comments and pages long, and it's really interested in what it has to say about itself. But that's not really exactly what we're talking about tonight. This is the published version. It's in here. I think it was before. Still is. Which has
That's not really the published version.
it's a photo of the, okay, this is a published version. This is a photo of this to make it slightly easier, though not particularly perfect to be seen, because my cell phone camera's blurry. I don't know, deal with it. But the full title being, we wrote an unpublishable article that you can still read. This is not that article, but without that article, this one would not exist, or a story of collaborative writing, and the rest you heard from Reverend Emily. Yeah, so this is the presentation that we're in the middle of, excepting the previous slides, because I made this before I made the slides that showed where the thing that we're talking about comes from. Yeah, so let's do it. Here we go.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
So here's this.
Here's how we got here. Like most other people who write for the Grassroots Journal, we were forced into it. I'm just saying how it is. We were conscripted in class.
Yeah, conscripted, I think that could be a little better.
Right.
I mean, whether it's and I think some 101 students also know this, but if your teachers didn't tell you, we are as part of our own grad school thing, we write articles for Joyce's class. And it
But
is
you
our
don't
own-
have to publish them in the journal if you don't want to.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
You
It's in
have to
there.
write them, but you don't have to publish
We
them.
forgot
So our
that-
motivation
We
was
forgot that
mostly
Joyce would
to
talk
get-
back to us.
I know, we did forget audience participation.
You should have known that.
That's fine. We didn't forget it, we just didn't consider it.
We just didn't think about it at all, which, knowing us, is not a surprise.
Right, our original motivation was, to get a good grade,
Yeah.
or do classic Pinky in the Brain type take
Yeah,
over
we're
the
going
world
to take
stuff.
over the world.
Right. So actually our first thought was to write a collaborative article about collaboration.
Real fast. Like
Yeah.
it was, the assignment was introduced, and we weren't even sitting next to each other, and it's like, we're just gonna do a thing, right?
Yeah. Because of, our obnoxiousness and arrogance.
It's in
And
the
our
title of the
desire
piece, too.
to be meta,
Mhm.
sure. And our desire to avoid work and entertain ourselves, right? Make jokes. That's
I mean,
kinda
that sounds like a joke itself, but it's not actually a joke, because and I didn't cite this, because why, I don't care, but Agatha Christie wrote that, what is it, what's the father of invention? Necessity is not actually the mother of invention, but it is in fact typically things like laziness and wanting to do the least amount of work possible.
That's right, that's why we did 2 articles.
Yeah,
So that we could do
that did not
more
work, it didn't work,
Yes.
but we did get published, so there's something to that.
Right. We were also going to do it about a conference proposal so that we could, make our work for us in more than one way.
Oh God, we're actually doing a presentation right now, so
God.
technically,
We are. That didn't work out either. So
okay,
let's keep moving on.
sure. So there were a lot of sources for what we ended up making in general, just whether it's class, whether it's the grade in the class, whether it's getting the thing published, whether it's doing a presentation that we're now doing, even though we thought we weren't actually going to after we decided not to do a proposal.
We kind of wanted to break it, the Grassroots Writing Research Journal, that is. So, yeah, I made that. Actually, the internet made it and I stole it. Whatever.
Looks smart.
Huh?
Looks smart.
Yeah, whatever. That's what we
That's
tried
our
to do.
whole deal.
So we started with premises that we knew wouldn't really translate. Marginalia, colored text. Both of us had different colored fonts and text when we were writing, so that we'd know who wrote what, partially so that we could avoid blame for saying things that we weren't supposed to say.
Yeah,
Our
our
footnotes,
article,
which are expressly forbidden by the Grassroots Style Guide, but
yeah, although a few other people got away with that in this most recent issue, I noticed that we weren't the only ones who did footnotes, even though the style guide said don't do footnotes.
right. Although now we think of it as taking standard practices of the genre and turning them on themselves to see what would happen and to play with the form and whether or not we can make it do similar things while not actually appearing like any of the other normal articles, right?
Right. So make the genre visible by doing everything wrong.
Right. And we say that now, but we didn't think of that when we were doing it, right? That's how we frame it later. I was really excited when I got my print copy because I could see Megan's, the editor's, introduction statement about our article. And I was really excited because the poster for tonight had like a little spiel about what our article did. So I was able to learn what our article did when I got to read those, which was really nice.
Whoa, hang on. So you're saying you had to read an introduction to tonight's presentation to learn what our article does? Or did? Or is still doing?
Okay, no. Old Scott. You don't get to just come in here and do that. You're the whole reason we don't know that in the first place. And also past me, but we couldn't get him for that scene. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna talk now, because why not? Because Scott's been going for a while. But I wrote some stuff down, I probably won't say a lot of it. Part of where at least my goals, whatever they were, are for this article came from the fact that
I should note, we didn't have editors for this presentation, so no.
oh yeah, you can super tell. I mean, not to get all death of the author about this, but actually no, I clearly changed my mind, so I am going to get all death of the author about this. If you don't know, because you're not like a grad student who's had to read these things, there's a thing that somebody wrote about how the author is dead. There's a citation at the end of the presentation, it'll be fun. But basically that's to say that it doesn't necessarily matter why, to go completely against the presentation about artist statements, it doesn't actually matter to, at least to us, to be all postmodern, why the author made a thing or what they wanted to do with it. What matters is what it does at the end of the day. Because if the author has a grand plan, the author, the artist, the writer, the whoever, has a grand plan about what the thing should do, and everybody who looks at the thing responds to it completely differently, does it matter what the author person said? I would argue that, at least to me, it doesn't. And maybe to Scott, but I'm the one talking right now, so I get to dominate things. So that's fun. But in trying to make sense of what we were trying to do, which is a great thing to admit out loud in public several times for an entire presentation, I like to think of, Catherine Hales wrote in that book that I like.
How we became post-human.
That's the one. About, well, a lot of things, but one of them is about how injecting randomness into a system can help that system reorganize into more complex patterns. And that's what this block quote here, that I probably won't read aloud, but it's there. is all about. And that's one of the things that I've found most valuable from this process is, sort of like Scott said, I mean, it's a little silly to be like, oh, now we know what our thing was for because other people told us. But it's more interesting and more fulfilling to me as a person who made a thing, co-made a thing.
Clay made it, it's fine.
Okay. Well, your students didn't think I was real.
That's true.
But
We'll get there.
yeah, it comes up. But to me, it's most valuable to find out if something is useful to other people. Like when whether it's this article or whether it's other like assignment stuff that I do, I feel most gratified in my job to find out that other teachers that I know are like, oh yeah, I did this thing with something you made in a completely different way than you would have done it, and it worked and it was awesome. I was like, yeah, you fixed something that I was stupid about. Good for you.
Great. I'm gonna stop you.
Go. You're gonna stop and make fun of me though. That's the whole.
Only a little. As you may have noticed, we're not very good at considering what our audience may do or who they may be. So the first time, Thaddeus liked to quote Bakhtin
I did.
incorrectly, whatever. And that's the quote in the original article. That,
Oh, the Barth one. There it is.
yeah, well, no, you also the chronotope
Oh yeah.
that you.
Oh, you
said
copied and
wrong.
pasted that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. And Roland Barthes. Barthes? I don't know how to say his name.
It's French. You know that.
That's your thing. But we had multiple audiences while we were working on this, although we didn't really succeed.
Really, considering how
appreciate that.
self-referential not only the original article and the one that is published, and what's going on right now is. I mean,
Good stuff. All right. Well, we had our teacher, ourselves, and potential readers of the journal. And there's a conflict between all of those people, or gals, or guys, or objects, or whatever the hell you want to call them. Where for the teacher, we're trying to get a good grade, right? For ourselves, we're just trying to be funny and entertaining and interesting. Although those two could potentially reconcile. And then for the student readers, we actually had no idea what they wanted from us, so that's why our first one failed so miserably.
and we both had our students in our 101 classes read the article this week.
did. We
Yeah, that happened.
Oh, great. Oh, probably should fix this slide. You're gonna have to do this one, because I don't know what our editors told us or recall working with any editors,
You're
so.
such a
No,
liar.
no.
Oh. Sorry, I messed that up.
You did.
I need an editor.
You can't even. Okay, of course you can get the video of you to work right. Good, thanks.
Of course I
So, first of all, Scott's a liar because we did work. I mean, it was asynchronous is the fancy word for it. Our interaction with our editors was asynchronous in that we didn't meet a lot of times face to face. We got letters from them which told us a bunch of different things that helped direct some of, I don't want to say unrestrained madness, but nothing else is coming to mind. And helped us cut out a lot of the extraneous stuff. Like earlier, Scott said the thing about, well, we'll try to make a conference proposal, and then we'll make our article about us trying to make a conference proposal. And we were already sort of like, that sounds like doing an extra thing. And so in the first response from the editors, the response we got was also like, do you really, what's the conference proposal for? So we of course used that as an excuse to dump that and just make it all about this show right here. So that was good. But also, one of the other things that we did is, or at least that hearing from the editors and getting the response to our initial crazy draft helped us do, is realize that what we had put together, or at least learn to live with the fact that what we put together was never going to be anything other than a really crazy draft that would not be published. And
No.
yet-
Okay, no. I'm not gonna stand for this anymore. You guys are so full of...
Still? You're not going to give me a whole clip?
No.
God. Okay, fine.
Sorry. You're cut off.
So the editors were sort of presently non-present, I'll say. But there was a lot of, in the letters that we got and we did sit down in Megan's office, you liar, you were there. We got to, put a human face to our editorial contact and help us redirect to be able to write our article about how we couldn't write the article that we wrote. Yeah. And so that relationship also became something that was in the article itself, because one of the last sections is us talking about the relationship with the editor.
Cool.
So it's
Let's
all
move on to that.
digging stuff up.
We got, we got a time constraint span.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Killing me.
I,
What the hell is this slide about? That's right. How we couldn't reconcile all those audiences.
yes.
So our final article. Can we call it final?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm
What if
calling
we do
it
something
final.
else with it?
I'm calling it final.
Stable for now, actually, if you want to use the genre.
Present
I
article.
love that. Our stable for now article tries to appreciate the complexity and ambiguity of writing for multiple audiences. And we aren't really very pleased with how we treated our audience, right? Because at best we're dismissive,
Yeah.
and at worst we're actively hostile towards them.
There is a footnote where I directly start yelling at a hypothetical reader.
It's probably not the best way to approach.
Look, they're already, if they're that far in the article already, it's probably not going to stop them.
It should. We really wanted to show the tools of the production that we were doing, which is why this article looked like a Google document, and this presentation looks like a Google document.
Oh yeah, there's comments and everything.
Yes.
Isn't that clever?
But there are some challenges with that because if you can't tell, we talk to each other quite a bit while we work. So our comments may have outstripped the pace of the actual
I hear it every
page.
day.
By a substantial amount.
Yes. It's hard to fit all of them. Oh, I messed up line break, whatever.
Well, yeah.
And with collaboration, there's a weird division of labor that has to happen. It's inherent and necessary, where you don't always get to do the things that you're good at or want to do. And it makes things, you know, between going from print to digital especially, not always be accurate.
No.
There's a portion of our article that I wrote that is in your font that
That's-
nobody noticed throughout this entire thing. Whatever.
Oh yeah, this sentence does contain 45 characters if you count periods as part of a sentence. Cool. So people did end up reading this. Other colleagues have taught it, and as I said, we taught it to our own students, which was fascinating. And I'm going to steal from a guy named Douglas Hofstadter here talking about recursion and self-referentiality, which one of the big problems with getting people to read something that is basically only about itself, like that sentence and like other things, is when talking to or being read by, in the case of an article, someone inexperienced with self-referentiality, it may take a bit of persistence to get across the idea that the sentence is talking about itself, and I would add, and that that's okay. But then again, we do live in a slightly more meta world. There's a lot of TV.
This presentation is partially about itself.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? Did you add another footnote? You used the phonetic alphabet?
I did.
I hate you. Okay.
I wasn't sure if this was.
This is Scott's
people
super
read this
huge.
or people
This is
read
Scott's super huge sentence here. Why did you pick this one for the example?
Oh, because my students counted the number of words that were in it.
Out of spite?
Yeah, a little bit. And we're frustrated because it is a sentence that claims that the way we write is confusing.
It's a confusing sentence about the fact that the way we write is confusing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it serves as evidence for its own claim, and that recursiveness is upsetting.
Ooh, that takes us to the next thing.
It does.
Yeah, because there's a picture of that, which I also stole from Hofstadter's book, which is it talks about this paradox that this sentence is false. No robots, good. And the fact that there's this iceberg metaphor that works kind of well for that, and that there's a lot of work that it takes to actually analyze things that are as long and complicated in self-talk as the thing that Scott showed on the previous slide that none of you really had time to read in completion and probably don't care to. But it's a way of kind of, one of the ways that this is problematic for readers is they kind of have to decide early on, looking at the mess of the way it looks, the way it breaks all the genre rules, if they want to stick with it, or if they're going to just be angry at it all the time. So that's a problem, I guess, in engaging with readers.
Yeah. This is mostly your stuff, isn't it?
I think so.
Sorry.
We're almost at the end.
Yes, we are.
All right. Yeah, and a lot of it, like from the student response, I think this was from our. I wrote this, but it's about both of our things. Yeah. But a lot of that, like, there are a lot of ways that this article seems to bother. The article that was published seems to bother some of our students. Part of it is the discomfort with the invisible parts of the genre made visible. So, for instance, the editors and the fact that we talk back at our editors and complain about certain things in our article, apparently people found it a little uncomfortable, which is interesting because it does raise the question of that we were combative at our editors and yet they still published us. So, I don't know, apparently it wasn't too combative to them, but it's still, yeah, it irked people. Uncertainty in regard to form, like, if you haven't seen this lovely thing, it is available in your campus bookstore for whatever price is on the thing. But it is unabashedly a mess. Like, there are side comments, there are footnotes, and one of the questions that I think both of our students asked was, how do you read this? We're like, I don't know, we're not the ones reading it. The way to read our particular article doesn't previously exist, so that's a problem, I guess.
Right. Another thing that was interesting, and this actually, we talked about it a little bit in our article, is that we are so alike, apparently, even though we look literally as far apart
I'm
as
very
possible. Right. And you're a fake ascot.
Nobody cares that you.
Whatever. Because they think they know me, and we're apparently so alike, the text reads shockingly like it's written by one person.
Yeah.
To them, not at all to me. But
Well, I mean, my students had a similar thing where they thought that there were two authors, but that I had written the final text.
oh, they thought I made you up.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I mean, look, those of you who aren't colleagues or former students don't know this, but I dress like this every day. This is weird. This is not a thing that is weird for me. Anyway.
Okay. It does. I don't know why I know that. That's really it.
Should we bring this home?
Yeah, bring it home.
All right. So here's our works cited page, which can hang out in the background. But like, I don't know, what do we take from any of this? How do you feel about it?
I have no idea. That's part of the point.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we had a lot of reasons for approaching the article the way we did. Amusing ourselves, getting our grade, trying to get published so we can have lines on our CV, and, I don't know, be general braggarts about things and
Right.
feel self-important. But there were things we wanted to do in the
Right.
article.
We wanted to not have a works cited page because we wanted to create a text that referenced nothing except itself.
Which we did,
Right.
success. But at the end of the day, it kind of matters more, at least to me, and I'll go ahead and say to us, that other people are able to make something out of it. Because the whole thing with like Emily or whoever wrote the poster thing, like being able to have a blurb, that's cool. Somebody made something out of our thing. Yay.
That's a perfect place to end.
Awesome. Let's do that. I feel done. You feel done?
Yes.